Hello everyone, hope you're well. Welcome back to 25 Tuesdays with Way. I'm Kate, and this evening I'm going to be speaking to Jo Sedley Burke, who is one of our trustees. So she's also a trustee like myself, and she is a volunteer who helps steer the direction of the charity and the strategy. So Jo herself is also a member, and she joined Way in 2018 after her wife Paula died. And she's passionate about reaching out to more young widowed people who could benefit from Way's support. I did speak to her on the talk series back in November 2020. That was before she became the chair of our charity. And I spoke to her about her story. So do look that up on our Instagram videos after this if you've not seen it already, for some more information about her and also a bit about her experience. Tonight I'm going to be talking to her again a little bit about her story, but also about her vision for the future of Way. So I'm just going to try and add her in. While I'm waiting, I'm just going to say a big thank you to Emma, who covered for me last week. So at the Faces of Way series, we've got 4 hosts who are hosting this series over the next few weeks. So it's 25 weeks in total, and we're all covering a different topic. So this is the Faces of Way, where I'm talking to people who work for the charity, are part of the charity, volunteers. I spoke to an ambassador. I spoke to Caroline Saal, who's the founder of Way. So really interesting series. And next up, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be talking with another host, and he's going to be talking to you about books and blogs. So we're going to be talking to some authors, which will be really interesting. And you might be glad to know this is the last week of my face. So I'm actually on holiday next week. So the lovely Emma is going to be back again, and she's going to be hosting and talking to about the campaigning side. So I'm just going to add Jo in now. And we'll hope this works. So if you didn't have a technical rehearsal this week, so we're both super busy. Oh, here we go. Hello.
Oh, so I realised my hair's gone all funny, sorry.
Hi Jo, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you again. It's been a little while.
Yes.
I know we saw each other in Cardiff, but I'm still getting used to kind of fewer in real life meetups with people, I suppose, than we had a couple of years ago. But thank you very much for coming onto Instagram tonight, because I know you're super busy as well.
Yes, but pleasure.
Yeah. So I suppose for those people that weren't able to join us back in November 2020, just tell us a bit about Paula and your story. You know, what was Paula like, and how do you guys get together?
Where do I start really? Having just spent the weekend with one of her family weddings, it's all very in my mind at the moment, my whole life. So we were together for just over 20 years. We met when we were in our 20s, and we moved all over the country and did lots of campaigning for civil partnership. She was slightly crazy, very, very funny. And as many people say, you know, the most amazing person. But my friends created a hashtag for her when she died. So yeah, and it was Paul would love that, so that they could post it all over the place. So yeah, she was an amazing individual. She worked for Microsoft. She was a software developer, and sometimes we'd have these conversations that I had no idea what she was talking about. But you know, life goes on.
It does. But I suppose, you know, and you're obviously widowed, you know, and not expecting it really. I mean, from the story that you shared us before, it wasn't something that was, you know, imminently coming for a long time, was it?
No, she had autoimmune disease, like a lot of people in the country do, and unfortunately got pneumonia, which was misdiagnosed by the hospital. And she got blue lighted in, which I'm sorry if anyone's listening to this and it triggers anything, but she got blue lighted into hospital. They said she was going to be there for a few weeks because she wasn't very well, and she died the next day. So it was a massive shock.
Yeah.
And she was 45 at the time, I was 49. And I think it's a massive shock for anybody, but it was one of those, I don't know what to do now. I literally do not know what to do. So
you are literally left, I think, in that total like stunned state. And I think even for somebody, you know, having spoken to other members who have expected it, you know, it's been one of those deaths, I guess, where people have said it's going to happen. I think it's still the shock element is still there, because when it finally hits, it's so difficult. But certainly
Yeah.
for people that are in your situation where their partner has, very quickly deteriorated, or gone out one morning and not come back again, the
Yeah.
shock factor is huge, isn't it?
It is. And I think for me that was shocking enough. But 3 months after she died, I got a phone call to say that they were investigating her death because they realised that they'd missed the x-rays when she'd been into hospital in and out the month before.
Oh,
So I
goodness.
then had 2.5 years of a clinical negligence case, which they denied all the way to the end, and then agreed and settled. And it was just like, why did you put me, and I'm sure many other people in that circumstance, through it? So message me if
Yeah.
anyone wants any advice on clinical negligence cases. But I also took it to the Ombudsman. So, and that was it's quite an interesting experience doing all of that as well. So they were very positive and very supportive, which I wasn't expecting. So, yeah.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? People don't expect with bereavement. There's all these other things that are going on afterwards that people have to deal with, and the trauma of not only losing their partner, but subsequent investigations and, like you're saying, court cases, and for some people, and legal battles for others. And it's horrific what so many members of our charity are facing, isn't it?
And for me, being a member of Way, I mean, I didn't know anyone else that was widowed. And secondly, I didn't know anyone who'd been through a clinical negligence case, and it was just, talk about fumbling around in the dark. And I'm going to keep talking, and you're going to say, no, that's a question for later. So
don't worry. I was going to say, well, how did you find Way? Because obviously they've been a help to you, but how did you come across them to start with?
Well, one of my friends told me that her sister's partner had died, and that someone had told her, and she'd joined Way for a while, and she said, oh, you should try it. So I said, well, I don't really know. I kind of looked at the website, which was the old website back then, and thought, yeah, I'm not sure this is for me. Left it for a while, then went back again, went a few times, and then eventually joined. And I probably made Colette's life a nightmare. I was full on widow brain, couldn't log in, denied ever receiving any details that she'd sent me about 4 times.
Colette's our head of operations, but she used to be our membership manager. So lots of members that find themselves in difficult situations. Historically, she's always been helping them make sure that they can log in. She is very calm. Yeah, she's very good.
Yeah.
And I guess how has the charity helped you, apart from giving you kind of that initial information? What's it done for you on your journey?
Without wishing to be too dramatic, I went through a particularly dark second year. I expected the first year to be the worst, but for me it was the second year. I think it was the reality of kind of everything coming into place, and just being able to talk to people, message them all sorts of times of day or night. Back in the days when we could have meetups, I was went to my very first meetup just as I had 3 months off sick and had a breakdown, basically. So the timing couldn't have been better. And just sharing the stories and talking to people who got it. I mean, for me, it felt like there was an extra layer. I think we all have extra layers like onions, really, around grief. Being gay, after Paula died, I messaged Stonewall, and I tried to contact all sorts of other organisations that I'd worked with, and no one actually had any support. They couldn't refer me to anybody, so I felt even more isolated. And then when I joined Way, I kind of thought, oh, are there any other LGBTQ plus members out there? And at the time, so that's 3.5 years ago, I managed to get responses from 8. And as a charity, we weren't even collating the statistics around kind of our membership to know whether we were, reaching everybody or not. So I kind of became a bit of a mission then to make sure that other people found out about Way.
Yeah, I think just touching on that, Jo. So, what I know you've spoken before, but perhaps not on Instagram. What are some of the challenges about being widowed and part of the LGBTQ plus community? So you've spoken about how, the unique situation that you were in.
Yeah, partly because gay marriage is relatively new in the scale of marriage. So when you say that you're a widow, people assume that you've lost a husband, and they say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, when did your husband die? So every single person I spoke to, I had to come out to. And I've been out since I was in my teens. But I think I came out to more people in that first year than I had, ever come out to, just at a point where, I was vulnerable and fragile enough. And even all the services that you deal with, some of the forms didn't they just weren't easy to fill in, because it's like, no, we're Mrs. and Mrs. How does that work? People thought because we had the same name, she was either my mother or my daughter. They just sort of jumped to a conclusion. And I genuinely don't think it was through kind of being homophobic. It just didn't occur to them, and it showed me that the training wasn't out there in various different organisations.
I guess potentially, a bit of naivety, isn't it? People haven't had, like you're saying, they haven't had that training.
Yeah.
And because it's not as common, it doesn't mean it's not acceptable, but just making it so much harder for people in the LGBTQ plus community who are in that situation, then having to talk about their identity, sexuality at a time where they shouldn't have to be talking about that. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think talking to other people in the community, there were I remember talking to someone, they said that their partner was trans, that nobody knew the situation between them, and they kind of having to explain that, and just they felt that they were letting their partner down by this secret that had been kept. That was their choice to keep that secret. And then talk other people who were perhaps bisexual and had been either with a woman or with a man, and just kind of exploring their sexuality again, and yet having friends who had only ever known them with a woman or a man, and having to come out and say, well, actually, I am bisexual. And it just puts you in a difficult position when you're already quite fragile and wondering how people are going to react to it.
So tell us a bit about the LGBTQ plus subgroup that we've got as part of the charity that I know you've been involved with.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. From the kind of a few people who admitted and were happy to be kind of out and proud, but not brave enough to have a meetup. We've now got a Facebook group which has got, I lose track of the numbers, I think it's now over 100 members. And like many of the other subgroups, it's very much about general support and chat, but just understanding the perspective. And sometimes family circumstances are different, again, as they are for many people. And just because you're gay doesn't mean you don't have children. So perhaps the WAYWOX is not there for you. I'm aware of other members whose family were okay with them whilst they were married to their son or daughter, but after the death perhaps weren't included in what was going on. And it's just another layer of support and understanding, really, and the usual crazy jokes. So it kind of helps on a day when you just had enough.
Yeah, and I think on this series we talk quite a lot about the subgroups and how people have set them up to kind of bring people together with either sort of commonality around their identity or their shared interests, and how good it is to just have kind of a shared understanding with people. And I suppose it's similar. Yeah,
absolutely. And I can say this because my family is Jewish. Our humour is interesting sometimes, as is gay humour. So not everybody would necessarily understand that. So it's just that kind of finding someone that you connect with, and a kinship, as it were.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to kind of talk a bit about what we reflected on a bit in our previous conversation. So but we haven't talked about your role as our chair of WAY. No. So tell us a bit about how that came about, and what does being the chair of a charity like WAY actually involve?
Well, I find myself usually involved in things because I can't keep my mouth shut. Which is how we did lots of campaigning for civil partnership, but also how I became a trustee of WAY a while back, not long after I joined. Got the Way Forward magazine, which was great, and then I looked at these pictures of board members who were all slightly older white men.
Mostly,
not all. And kind of messaged the chief exec, who was then Becky, and just said, look, what's just going on with the board? It's not very diverse, is it? And she said, join the board then, put yourself forward. So I kind of then I wanted to, but I felt that, yeah, actually I could do that. I've always used my voice. My parents are many things, but encouraging me to speak out was one thing they really did master. And I've been, I think, a pretty active trustee, and I'm very passionate about the charity, particularly around the diversity and inclusion, but also making sure that it's around for years to come, and supporting members. And I know that, it's coming up for my 5th year anniversary since Paula died. Kate and I were in a similar kind of position, aren't we? And I know how different I feel now to how I felt when I was a new member, and just making sure that we are constantly aware and supporting new members. And Bill had been was chair when I was joined the board, and had done his stint, as it were, and asked if I would consider being the chair, and I was very happy to take it on. It's occasionally quite a bit of work. He told me it was fine, it was absolutely fine. I hadn't realised quite how much work sometimes it is. It comes in fits and starts, but I think because this last 6 to 12 months, I don't know, 2 years, COVID has just thrown everything for a complete loop.
Yeah.
But also all the preparations for the 25 years, getting our strategy sorted, part of which is the brand refresh, and we've managed to get lots of funding over the last couple of years, and so the staff team has grown, so there's recruitment.
It's doubled nearly, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's doubled. It's doubled. It wasn't very big before, so doubling it, yeah, but it has doubled, which is, fantastic, which will allow us to do more fundraising, support more volunteers, and go from there. And that's all part of the strategy. It's about making sure that we've got a really strong foundation. And as a board, part of our job, I'm assuming everyone knows that you're a trustee as well as
yeah, they know I'm a trustee, but we haven't talked in great detail about what I'm doing, so don't worry, keep going.
Are you going to get interviewed at some point?
Has been mentioned.
Maybe I should do that. Our role is to make sure that we're financially strong, that we're governed well, that we make good decisions, that we have future planning, and we support the staff team, because fundamentally we're kind of the employers of the staff team. So making sure that they're well looked after and supported. And it's been tough for the staff, as well as for the members, as quite a few staff members are members of the charity. It's not easy to say, is it? So it's quite varied, really. Quite varied.
But your role as chair, obviously you're
yes,
leading from the helm.
Yes, absolutely. My role as chair is to steer the board, really, and to challenge and make sure that everybody gets their opportunity to speak and challenge, and that we have a diverse board in relation to views, backgrounds, opinions. We recently did a survey of all the board members, and a similar one for all away members has come out recently. Not quite the same, but very similar, just so that we understand who our members are, background, age, income brackets, all sorts of things. So diversity for me is not just gender, sexuality, race. It's everything else that comes with that. And I want to make sure that as a charity we are unique in that our membership is moving, because we're open to people who are kind of 18 to before their 51st birthday, and every day that's potentially somebody new. And how do we stay fresh and I can't think
relevant.
That's the exact word. Well, thank you. Fresh and relevant, really. And so challenging us as a board, which is why we have board members have terms and how long they can stay, and the same for a chair. But so my job is to kind of push forward on that agenda. We developed a 5-year plan a year ago now, and we're in the first year, and it sets out some, the strategic goals for growth around our membership, the partners that we work with, and the strength of our brand. And so I think
we had our 25th gathering a few weeks ago, which was fantastic, in Cardiff, so the 25th anniversary. And I know that you spoke then about the kind of the vision for the future of Way. So what does that look like for you? What is our vision?
It's interesting, because not that I thought I had a unique vision, but I felt that for me, anybody who was eligible to join should know about Way and should be able to make the decision to join Way. But listening to the founders, that was the same vision when it was just the 7 of them, 6, I've lost track of how many there were. They had that same vision, which is just amazing. I think we've now got the tools to make it happen. The internet for one, and we've got a staff team, and it is just about constantly raising our brand, making sure that we've got the strength financially, and that anybody who's eligible to join us knows about the charity. So
and it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously we're wanting to stay relevant, so we need to make sure that we're keeping with the times and that we're on every social media platform that there is, so that younger potential members kind of hear about us. But obviously we've also got, as well as telling everyone who needs us about us, we've got a whole stream of people, 4,500 people who are members that we continue to support, who are aging, so I'm 5 years older now than I was when I joined at 35. So I've I think similar needs now, but I suppose our demographic, like you said, changes over time. So
very much so. So that making sure that relevance for members, and there's quite a clear kind of split within the strategy that we need to look after our members and make sure that we're providing them with the support services and the ability to still have that peer-to-peer support in whatever platform that is, as well as encouraging new members and the awareness into the kind of organisations and sectors. I had to go into my doctor's the other day and I was like, can I leave a leaflet, please? I just go them with, and everyone's just like, oh no.
Like a litter drop, isn't it, wherever we go?
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't know. And people at work now and the various places who come up and say, oh, I know somebody, can you talk to them? Yeah. And I think, that's fantastic that, that's just me and one person, that I don't mind getting on a stage and talking. It may not always be smooth running, but
Yeah, it is an ongoing challenge, isn't it? And it is so important having the power of the members, because obviously 4,500 people tell even one person, that doubles the amount of people who know about it, and that'll go on and on and on. But that's still not going to cover the whole of the UK.
No.
So I know that we're constantly challenged, and challenging the staff and challenging ourselves and talking about it at board meetings about what else can we do, what can we do differently, what else do we need to do, where are the gaps.
Yeah, we're setting up a diversity and inclusion group, which will be made up of board members, the ambassadors, volunteers and other members generally, just to kind of challenge ourselves and look at the ways that we can diversify. And I mean, this year is the 25th, not that it's just an excuse, but as part of the 25th, we are having celebrations in England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, starting off with Wales, obviously, and we've got Birmingham coming up shortly, which I'm finally having a holiday and I can't believe it's at the same time, so I'm going to miss it. But and then the AGM in Scotland, which would be amazing, and then going over to Northern Ireland, which I'm really looking forward to. So just kind of spreading
definitely
the word.
Excited about the travel opportunities that we've got. I think my next question, Jo, we've covered some of it slightly, is talking about why is diversity and inclusion so important for a charity like Way? I know we talked about we want to reach everybody, but what does that mean? Where are the gaps? What and we're setting up a board. What we're doing about it as well.
Yeah, so the survey I mentioned is to just truly understand the diversity of our current membership, and what we're doing is we're comparing that against the national statistics and the national averages to make sure that wherever we have members, that we kind of mirror what's going on nationally. And I'm very aware that we are our ethnic diversity in the mix. We are just the numbers are quite poor within the membership. They've gone up, which is great, but we're not the first choice of people of colour, and I don't want Way to be seen as a charity that is for kind of white married people. It really is inclusive of everybody, and the minute you're on the inside you realise that, and so it's finding the channels sometimes to communicate with people. So if anybody watching this either now or later suddenly thinks, well, actually I know a route that could help, then please do step forward, because it is constant raising awareness, and a lot of the fundraising we do raises awareness because it has a massive marketing as well as funding. You know, that really works for us.
It does, and I suppose also we're going to be looking at how we can ensure that we're relevant and engaging to people that aren't able-bodied as well, because you know,
yes,
people from that community I know are underrepresented at the moment within the charity.
Yes, very much so. And I think because we've been traditionally kind of meetups and it's organised by members, that may not be people's first thought when they're organising meetings about, you know, how accessible the premises is. And just I was talking with Steph, our chief exec, the other day about how we can open up trustee membership more. The fact that we now have kind of hybrid meetings, so some of them are virtual, some of them are face-to-face, some are a bit of both depending on where you are in the country, which has meant people haven't had to travel, which I'm hoping will make a huge difference, because actually from a board perspective we're underrepresented in a few areas, ethnic diversity fundamentally, but also younger women with children. And I guess some part of that is about, you know, having to take time out of your day when life is hard enough.
Yeah, exactly.
When
you've got dependents who need your time.
Yes.
Because it's because we have our board meetings on a Saturday morning, don't we, at the moment?
We
so
do.
People, I often get asked about this, you know, what is a board meeting and what do you do? And I'm like, well, it's a little bit like going to work. I'm not going to lie, you know, I prepare for it like I would a meeting at work. I read the board papers in advance. You know, I put topics forward sometimes and prepare for that. And then we all talk about them and we make decisions. And ultimately, we're bringing our kind of life experience, aren't we? And our knowledge of best practice and how to make good decisions for the charity to steer them in the right direction. So
we have some healthy discussions, debates.
We do have some debates as well, which is all part of it, because we're all very different, which is great. In many ways, but I do, and I do enjoy it. I hope you do too as well, Jo.
I do enjoy them. It was so lovely to actually have a face-to-face board meeting in February when we went down to Cardiff, realising it's been, I don't know, however many years it's been since we actually met face-to-face.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
I didn't realise that I hadn't met Veronica, volunteer manager. Never actually met her face-to-face, and then I said to Mike, who's one of our other board members, I didn't realise how tall he was. So, because I've only ever seen his head.
That's true, actually. I get that as well, because when I'm sitting down, I've got quite a short body and long legs, so people don't realise that actually I'm really tall. And then when they meet me, they're like, wow, you're actually a lot taller. I didn't think you were tall. And I think it's just because in my chair, I'm not very tall.
No, we're all the same height, and people quite often say, well, where's the dog that's usually under your arm or something? Because I've actually shut the door tonight so that he doesn't actually come and join the chat.
That's true. So I suppose anyone who's listening, Jo, who's thinking, you know, I'd really like to get involved, I quite fancy being a trustee, you know, what should they do about
that? So you can either message me direct or message probably Colette or Steph. We've had a couple of people who've expressed some interest. What we're doing is we're putting together almost like a job description, but I don't want that to sound too serious, but just
don't want that to put you off.
I don't want it to put you off. It's just kind of making sure that actually these are the skills that we need, and they're kind of different from skills that I've got or you've got. And also so that people are prepared, because sometimes you kind of think, well, what is it? I've never been a trustee or a board member before. What do I have to do? And we're putting together a training pack. So I've got a couple of names of people that I'll be talking to, just have sort of a general chat about the role, really. And then we're going to advertise those roles. And
fantastic.
People enjoying. But we're, you know, because of the cycle of trustees, there'll be 2 or 3 positions coming up over the next year.
Because we only do a certain amount of time as our term to keep things fresh, and that people are constantly bringing in their views and ideas and thoughts around how they can support the charity, and coming up with crazy ideas like talking on Instagram like I did a couple of years ago.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. And I think because we're so focused on the website at the moment, where we're going to have the new members area, the skills of the board is very much based around kind of technology and projects and IT, as well as the governance and the finance and stuff. We know that legal skills, if anyone's got any awareness on legal skills, that's an area
It's
that
a much needed attribute that we'd really love to have. None of us have got any professional legal experience.
Yeah, we're tapping up our mates mainly. So
pretty much. Yeah, that's quite a good. That's another thing that quite a few of the board members I know are good at as well, is kind of networking with other people. It's not hugely it's not my forte. I know a lot of people in IT and digital, so I've used them where I can. But
yeah,
I know that you have, haven't you, with getting a DJ in for the AGM?
Yeah,
I think it was.
I had a member of staff in the company where I was working. He DJ'd on his out of hours, and I managed to persuade him to come and do that. So yeah, all sorts of people.
So I just wanted to kind of finish talking about the other plans that we've got in store. I know we mentioned them briefly before. So for our 25th anniversary, so we've got the Birmingham event in May, which is aligned with our big picnic weekend. So I know you've hosted a picnic before, haven't you? I think we did virtual picnics.
Yeah, I've hosted a virtual picnic, and I had a picnic on the green in the village where I live. There were only a few people because it was kind of that, were we in lockdown, were we not in lockdown? But the ice cream van did come. And that was really good. So yeah, we had ice cream.
I know this year for our members, and also the opportunity for members to bring along friends and family. It's one of our few open events where we encourage you to bring along other people, and obviously members bring their children as well and their dogs sometimes. So yeah, we'll be hosting a big picnic weekend in May, so look out for more information about that.
There's one in Essex where I am as well. So it tends to be regional as well as individual and all sorts.
Yeah, there's one. I know there's one in Buckinghamshire as well, not that far from me. So they're all over the country. It's Glasgow, etc. And then we've got our AGM in Glasgow. So this AGM booking, we've talked about this at the board meetings for probably, and our booking tends to start at least a year, if not 18 months before the actual event. So I think nigh on for about 3.5 years, by the time we get to Glasgow, we'll have been talking about this event and this hotel, etc. So what happens at an AGM from your experience, Jo, apart from...
So I've only been to one AGM because we've been in lockdown since my first AGM, and we went into lockdown and we postponed the first...
True, isn't it? I've only been to two, so fair enough.
We had to postpone the Glasgow AGM because we didn't know what was going to happen with lockdown, but I was so nervous when I went, and I'm, a social person, as most people know, and but it was lovely. Got there, checked in, just kind of met for drinks and chat, and you don't have to drink. There was, the sober side as well, but if you wanted to have a drink, that's fine. We had the business, so the AGM, the official piece, and hopefully those that joined us virtually this year for our AGM will be just as exciting in the flesh. And then we get onto the fun stuff. So we've got people talking, we've got workshops. When I did the Southampton one, we did a Bollywood dancing, which was such fun. And we even did that later on in the evening. And I didn't think I would ever be up there doing Bollywood
dancing. It's actually run by one of our other hosts, actually, so Shalini, so she can get us to talk about that later on in the series.
Yeah, I did a meditation one. I think we've got a whiskey one up in Glasgow. There's usually something around chocolate. And there's just a whole range of different kind of sessions that you can go to and meet people. And in the evening, there's a fantastic dinner and dance and a raffle, which becomes incredibly competitive usually, between Colette and Ed, as to who can raise the most amount of money.
Selling raffle tickets, wasn't it?
Encouraging people to buy raffle tickets.
Indeed. But we had some great prizes the last couple of years that I've been to, which was really good fun. And like you said, it was all about meeting people and opportunities to get dressed up, black tie, or not just doesn't have to be a new dress, but just that opportunity to mix and meet other people in the same situation.
I bet Shalini was on the table with her, and I cautiously said to her, because I had just kind of started to date somebody and I was feeling very, very anxious about it, and she was like, "Oh, I've written a whole book about it," and so I felt that it was okay to talk about it. But before that, I'd been really nervous to talk about it. So,
And then obviously we've
We
got our
do.
event, as you mentioned, in Northern Ireland. So
Yes.
I personally, I don't think I know anything about that event yet. I don't know if we've planned it. Do you, Joe?
It's work
Any
in progress.
secrets you're allowed to let on?
No, nothing currently, just work in progress.
Well, it's far in the future. So,
Yeah,
yeah, look out for more details about that. I suppose TBC.
yeah,
But I think, is that going to be, is it sort of November time? I think we're
yeah,
looking at.
yeah. Later in the year.
Brilliant.
Fingers crossed, it's not going to be too wet and windy and all the rest of it. So.
No. So I suppose apart from I'm adding some random questions in now, Joe, because we've got time.
Oh,
This is the danger, you
crack
see.
on! No, no, it's
But I
not the
suppose
20 past.
I just listening to you speak and hearing everything about Way, and obviously it's done so much for you personally to help you with, I suppose your bereavement and the situation you've been in. But
Yeah, yeah.
what is your kind of favourite thing about being involved in the chat with the charity now? What is it that you enjoy the most?
I love the members. I love the fact that it's a charity of members for members, and a kind of talking to people that I haven't met before, listening to people's stories and being able to relate to them. And when I first joined up, I felt like all I did was take, and that kind of on the Facebook groups or the website, I was forever posting about the day I was having, or I couldn't deal with something, and there was always someone there who was just there to support me and would message or would check in on me, or and I had to have surgery, and it's really scary on your own going and having surgery, and yet there were a group of people who were like, how did it go? And it was just this amazing kind of scaffolding all the way around me, and I feel now that I'm able to give some of that back. Just because I've got more experience, you kind of come to terms with it a little bit better, the support, and yet there's still people who've been members for years more than me who are able to offer that, and I can still post, I'm having a bad day, although they are far less, but yeah, it's
You're still getting that support for you.
I do. I still get the support back.
And I think that's what people outside of the charity don't really understand, and they see people like yourself and me who've, moved forward. Their life has changed quite extensively since they were widowed, and, have partners, and things have changed, and, you're moving and doing different things, but you still have that pain, still always going to be a young widow, and always have to live with that, and still some tough days, and that's hard. And it is fantastic that we can still be part of the charity and still lean on each other, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And just occasionally just sending a WhatsApp to somebody and how was this or how was that? It's just, it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference. So yeah, it's all about the members, really.
Well, a huge thank you from me, Joe, I suppose, for being a trustee, your wonderful self. I love being on the board with you. It's great to work with you, and thank you so much for being our chair. It's an unenviable position, I think, for a lot of people, because, well, it's not because it's necessarily a scary thing, but perhaps for them, because you are challenging the people that take part, and in a positive way. And I love that, we do challenge each other to do our absolute best for the charity.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for kind of steering us in the right direction.
It's my pleasure.
It's
really I couldn't do it without everybody else. Without the members and all the other trustees and stuff.
We have got a good team. And it's even have to get up early sometimes on a Saturday, because I do like my Lions. It's always enjoyable. I never kind of think, oh, that was awful. No, I always think it's really good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much as well for coming and talking to me this evening, giving up your Tuesday. To anyone who's listening, we've got lots of moving conversations lined up in the next few weeks. We've still got a couple of exclusive slots I've been asked to point out. So if anyone's really super keen to come and talk to us on Instagram, do let one of the team know. You can send us a DM on Instagram, or you can send an email to Vicky or one of the rest of the team. Or if you've got any ideas, so you're perhaps not wanting to chat, but just a burning topic, something you'd like to know about, or something you're really kind of keen to hear people talk about, then again, just send us a DM. And don't worry if you join this story late, want to hear what we were talking about earlier, you can find this after our chat today. I'll be loading it up onto our Instagram videos, formerly known as IGTV. And we've got all of our talks on there. So we've got our hashtag 25 Tuesdays, and you can see all of the all of the videos that we've made since we launched this a few weeks ago. So I'll be taking a break next week, as I mentioned, I'm on holiday, but Emma will be coming along and chatting to two of our ambassadors, just checking here. So we've got Georgia and Orlando, and they were both widowed while they were pregnant. So they'll be talking a bit about the challenges that they've had in that situation and difficulties and how they've coped and been part of Way and how that's really helped them. So I hope you all tune in next Tuesday to hear the next instalment, and I'm sure I'll be back here at some point in the future to speak to you all again. So thanks very much, Jo. Take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Pleasure. Thanks ever so much.
You.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.